So hi guys, and welcome to a lore video on the Fable games. And here we want to talk about the town of Bowerstone, particularly from the first Fable, and then we're going to see how we go with Bowerstone as it appears in pretty much all Fable games. So Bowerstone is the town that Lady Grey, as mentioned in the previous video, is the mayor of. It's divided into a few sections, but essentially it's the largest town in Albion in the Fable era. It's located very close to the north of the Heroes Guild, so it would be one of the first places you go to after graduating from the Heroes Guild. And then, as mentioned, it kind of expands and grows, and it appears again in later Fable games. But essentially, it's one of the safest places in Albion, as it's surrounded by a large wall and is protected by a lot of guards. Not only that, but when you go there, the guards confiscate your weapons, so you can only use fists or mana magic to do violence in the town. It's kind of I think it's a pretty cool place. It's divided into two main sections. You've got North Bowerstone, Bowerstone North, and then Bowerstone South. Bowerstone North is kind of like the rich, prosperous area, whereas Bowerstone South is more of a kind of general slums. It's got the Bowerstone Key as well. And then basically citizens of the south side are not actually allowed to enter the north side without permission of a resident of the north. And it's also considered to be Albion's economic centre.
Yeah, so I guess the history of Bowerstone, it has quite a long history of sort of thugs and gangs and gang wars and that sort of thing. And I guess one of the more well-known wars that took place in Bowerstone's history was when an evil wizard opened up a portal and attempted to destroy the city. But the great guild mage Solstius stopped him using a sword known as Avos Tear, which we sort of touched upon in our lore video of Avos Tear. Solstius sort of used the sword to seal the sort of vortex raging portal with the sword, so definitely some interesting lore there. Magdalena was one of Bowerstone's earliest rulers, and Lady Elvira Grey, who is the mayor of Bowerstone during the Hero of Oakfell's time, was a direct descendant of Magdalena. So, as we sort of discussed in Lady Grey's lore video, the sort of ruling scheme in Bowerstone seems to be a little bit closer to like a monarchy, I guess, where sort of the family continues to rule it, and their descendants take their place rather than a mayor who's sort of usually elected. So I definitely thought that was quite interesting. In terms of the economy, it's stated that Bowerstone relies fairly heavily on trading with Oakvale and Orchid Farm. And most of the goods come through via boat in Bowerstone Key.
Yep. So Bowerstone is also ruled over by the mayor that we've mentioned, who lives in the manor in Bowerstone North, the more prosperous area. The town has a sheriff who leads the Albion guards that are based there. And as mentioned, weapons are not allowed, so they'll be confiscated whenever you go in, whichever side you go in from, and you'll get them back from whichever side you go out from, just like magic. But yeah, basically, so it's we'll talk about the districts and a few other things in a second, but basically in the game, it's obviously, I guess, the medieval version of like a London type thing, like a bustling kind of area where the majority of people live. There's a bit of everything there. There's like a school, which you can sort of read storybooks from, like, for the kids and stuff. You can basically, you can buy a house there. There's shops, there's a tavern, all the usual stuff. But it's also something that, for me anyway, the music backdrop, the Bowerstone soundtrack, is like just perfect for, like, when you're there, you just have this idea that you're in a big town, even though there's not, compared to other like RPGs, when you go to, like, for example, Novigrad in Witcher 3, or wherever else in other RPGs, like the Imperial City in Oblivion, for example, at a similar sort of time as this game. Like, there's a lot more in those cities, for example, physically, but you get given the feeling in Bowerstone that you're in a big, like, settlement, that you've got the music that fits it perfectly, you've got the background noise of chatter and all the rest of it happening. It just is like you feel like you've gone to the capital city of Albion, really, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And especially due to the fact that it's sort of separated into districts, whereas all the other sort of cities are in their own single sort of cell. But yeah, I guess the big thing with Bowerstone is that you've got Bowerstone South, you've got the North, you've got the Key, and you even have sort of the little jail section just out the back exit, which eventually leads up to sort of Headsman Hill. So it's definitely. I guess it may not actually be that physically massive in game, but you really do get the feeling that it is with the sort of chatter, and the fact that it's split into these districts. It starts to really feel like, compared to the other cities in the game, this is definitely like the city to be in. This is the capital. And as, I guess the other aside is the fact that you come back here later on. So obviously you start only with access to Bowerstone South and the Bowerstone Key. But eventually you come back after winning the arena. You're allowed in Bowerstone North, so you sort of have a triumphant return to the town in game, where you're sort of treated like one of the elite now. So you get access to this new area, and then again you come back to sort of travel towards Bowerstone Jail, and up the sort of Headsman Hill area. So it definitely feels like a real central location in the game, despite the fact that it's not a full open world game, so it's not like it's actually physically centered in the middle of a open world map, but it does feel like a central location that you come back to almost as much as the guild, but obviously not quite.
Yeah, and it also makes sense that the Heroes Guild would be close by, within just a couple of essentially loading area or map areas away, so very, very easy to get to, even without the Cullis Gates. But it's kind of got that main entrance into Bowerstone South is like over a bridge, over a river, and it's just got that full, capital kind of city feel. In terms of those districts that my brother did mention, so you've got Bowerstone South, which is that part where kind of the lower class area, the poorer area, where most of the people do live, most of the shops in here, including the school as well. And then you go into Bowerstone North, so up the steps as well, so quite symbolic, obviously going up the steps to get into the richer area too. Through the door, past the guard, once you've got the invite. So the Bowerstone Manor's there, where obviously the mayor lives. You've got one shop in this area, where you can buy the Solace Greatsword, which is the only place in the game that you can actually acquire this weapon. And also the temporary prison cell is also here too. We don't know if the guards have their office here, but it would be most likely, I'd say. But you can go into some of the houses and stuff. Obviously, if you got to be careful, because you're not supposed to. It's trespassing, and if you steal stuff, you'll get in trouble. And with no weapons to fight back, like the guards will, it will take a long time, but the guards will take you out eventually, unless you're like super into the game. Then you've got Bowerstone Key, so this is the harbour of Bowerstone. It's basically used primarily for commerce with Oakvale, sailing down the river and out to the delta where Oakvale's based. It's also the place where the local fist fight gang of Bowerstone sort of fight. One of the first, I think, if not the first, maybe.
Yeah, it's the first one you can get to.
Yeah, and then there's also a witch that lives in this area, but she's only there once you do the sick child quest. And then finally, the last other area as mentioned was Bowerstone Jail, which is out sort of to the northern side. One more prison cell, and then on the other side of the wall to Bowerstone North. And it's on the way up to, the Headsman Hill, and on the way to Lichfield Cemetery, and also Bargate Prison, which is one of the coolest quests in almost any game I've ever played, to be honest.
Yeah, but I guess with that is pretty much everything to discuss on Bowerstone in the original Fable. We would consider talking about Bowerstone, Fable 2 and Fable 3, but I'm sort of the opinion that the cities are kind of completely different in those games. Like, they share the same name, and technically in lore it is the same city, just, a few, 100 years later or whatever, but in terms of things like layout and how the city works, it's a lot different in those games, so it'll probably be covered in a separate video if we decide to sort of go down that route. So unless you have anything else to sort of discuss on Bowerstone for Fable 1.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for everyone, you already know because you're listening to this now, but I will put on the theme music, the soundtrack of Bowerstone in the background of us talking. Hopefully,
put that on for pretty much the whole video is fine.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get pulled down because of it. Obviously, it's not our music; we don't own it. But yes, we're going to put that on in the background, and you guys can listen to it because it's pretty awesome. And yeah, look, until the next time, we're going to do another video exploring some characters. I think that's it from me.
Yeah, that should be everything. So just let us know your thoughts in the comments, and maybe let us know who you want to sort of get lore videos on next. And yeah, with that, thank you for watching.
Bye bye.